One second. Let it run for a little bit. Abibifahodie family, Abibifahodie, African liberation and Black power to everyone. Karibu, welcome to my first episode of Maktaba, Chinwe. As you can see in the title, we're going to be doing a little brief overview of chapters 1 through 5. Not going to stay on here too long. It's just some things specifically that I want to cover and go over. I'll never give complete detail of a full book because the point of my whole channel is to encourage y'all to get these books and read them for yourselves. But I will touch on some things that stand out to me specifically. And so that's my intention with every book that I share. There will also be books that I read that I want to share with people who are serious about the liberation of African people and to those who are interested in learning more about what they should be doing. And so to do that, my partner and I have created a Discord. And in that Discord, we share everything from lectures to books, different resources to help educate ourselves. And so I'll put that link in the bio after I finish this live. And yeah, also, I'm going to put the link into our bookstore, asantesanabookstore. You all definitely please support us. All support is welcome. Give us a follow on Instagram. On all social medias, we are Asante Sana Books. And by all social medias, I just mean Instagram and Facebook. All right, so yeah, I'm going to turn this down. I'm not sure. I hope I can be heard. There's nobody in the chat, of course, but that's okay. So far, I've read chapters 1 through 7, actually. I had to stop myself. I was like, I gotta stop and tap into my channel. Like, I made this channel, but I haven't come back to make an actual video yet, so I gotta hold myself accountable. That's a big thing. But yeah, I've read chapters 1 through 7 so far, and just like all the other autobiographies that I've read so far, I'm really appreciating Malcolm's story so much that I've taken deeper dives into the story to just, see how Alex Haley got it done, to see how Malcolm got it done. And I've learned a few things. I've also learned that it's actually a chapter that wasn't included in this book, and it's called The Negro. And the chapter was actually found, not found because it never was lost, but some museum or library in New York, I believe, they purchased it from whoever had rights to this chapter, and now it's like on display. So y'all should definitely go look that up. It's called The Negro, and essentially it goes something like Alex Haley didn't feel like that chapter fit in with the book, and what he wanted to get across from telling Malcolm's story, which is completely understandable. But now that chapter is available to those who, but you're going to have to do some digging. You have to do some digging. I may try to attach that link below as well. I probably need to write these things down. All right, let me do that really quick. Link. As you can see, these lives and these book reviews and studies will not be like super formal. So, everything is happening in real time. Chapter. Bookstore link. that Discord link. All right, but yes. So yeah, y'all go tap into that after this. It's actually pretty beautiful. I also learned that Malcolm did not want to do this autobiography, and I think we can all understand that too. You know, it's some things that happen in your life that you kind of just want to leave. You know, and you move forward. You don't want to bring those things back up into the present. You know, so I can see how this was kind of difficult for him to do, but you know, oftentimes those things can be very therapeutic once you become a new person and you go back to whatever time in your life and you're able to look at it in hindsight. Um, so yeah, I hope that's what this book did for Malcolm, even though he didn't get to see it in its finished form. But you know, he reads it through us. You know, but all right, I'm gonna stop talking. Chit chat. Let me get into the book. It's already been 6 minutes. It's crazy that people really like sit and edit things and cut it down into a 6-minute video. I don't know how. It takes a lot of time and energy, you know. But all right, we're gonna get into it. As it says in the bio, I'm really just gonna focus on chapter 1. You may be like, dang, you read chapters 1 through 5. Yes, I did. But I want to be very specific on what I focus on these videos. And, you know, chapter 1 really spoke about Malcolm's upbringing and his time that he had with his mom and with his father. And I think that is a very important part of his life, you know, that people need to pay attention to, because it allows you to see the influence or the subconscious influence is how I look at it, of, you know, things that happen to you as a youth that play a part or orchestrates your future in a way. And so with that, we can go ahead and get into it. So Malcolm's dad, and I'm on chapter 1 right now, page 1. His father was Reverend Earl Little. That was his dad's name. He was a Baptist minister and a dedicated organizer for Marcus Garvey's UNIA. With the help of such disciples as his father, as he says, Garvey, from his headquarters in New York, was raising the banner of Black race purity and exhorting the Negro masses to return to their ancestral African homeland. So that just gets started and lets us know that Malcolm's dad, on the first page right out the gate, was heavily influenced by the UNIA and Marcus Garvey. So if we look at who Malcolm became and what his dad was already on before he was born, actually, it already gives you some light into like, okay, this was kind of orchestrated. And again, if you guys, whoever's watching this back, my African brethren and sister, and if you don't know Marcus Garvey, again, he was the creator of one of the largest movements, if not the largest movement, by a Black man in the Northern Hemisphere. And it was called the UNIA and ACL, Universal Negro Improvement Association. And his whole thing was race first and Black people returning to Africa to build and obtain sovereignty and power. And Marcus Garvey made note that he did not mean all Black people, only Black people that were very serious about the liberation of themselves. All right. And so, yeah, Malcolm goes in to speak more, you know, about the time that he shared with his dad. His dad was very active in the community, as it said at the beginning. He was a minister, so he had his own church. And, you know, the people who went to his church were also fellow followers of the UNIA. And so outside of the church, he would host meetings. And out of all the children Malcolm was like one of the only ones that that his dad would always take to these meetings, for whatever reason. Malcolm had ended up having about eight siblings. And out of those siblings, Malcolm was the one who was taken to these meetings. Call it fate, whatever you want, but the ancestors definitely orchestrated all of those things. And a few things that Malcolm says he would hear at these meetings. Let me get to the page real quick. He says on page 6, he says, I can remember hearing Adam driven out of the garden into the caves of Europe, meaning that I believe that is referencing the European man. Africa for the Africans. Africa for the Africans is a mantra of Marcus Garvey made that is very essential, and we should apply it to our daily sayings. Saying that Africa is for us as African people. We are the children of Africa, so it is up to us to take Africa back. Ethiopians awake. This was actually my first time hearing Ethiopians awake. I never heard that one. And he says his father also talked a lot about how it would not be much longer before Africa would be completely run by Negroes, by black men, was the phrase he always used. No one knows when the hour of Africa's redemption cometh. It is in the wind. It is coming one day like a storm. It will be here. Now, everything in that is powerful. It is very powerful. But one thing that stuck out to me just now, actually, is, and it's funny because it just shows you how time changes. But he said, and my father would talk about how Africa will be completely run by Negroes. So the way that we understand the term Negro now, it is applied to those black people or those Africans who are Uncle Toms. Negroes and Uncle Toms kind of are synonymous now. And Negroes are the enemies of our race. They are the ones who, have businesses set up with the Europeans to help exploit the people. And it's just kind of, I guess you would call that kind of irony. It's ironic. It's ironic that that's what was said then, me knowing that he meant differently, of course, but it's definitely ironic because Africa is run by Negroes now. And I mean Negroes in the sense that I just said. And so that's ironic. But then, afterwards he says, quotes, by black men. So he meant just being ran by black men, which it is. And there are some great African leaders. But I won't go off on that tangent. But yeah, those are just some nice mantras that Marcus Garvey or his dad would be saying with the people. And one that most people should know, or if you search up Marcus Garvey quotes, you're probably going to see this first. And it says, up you mighty race, you can accomplish what you will. We can accomplish what we will. Now, that's not saying we will do, that's saying will, like having the fortitude to accomplish something when you break down that quote. And so that comes along with understanding that it starts with us. The real revolution is us. The real revolution is us. Marcus Garvey said this. He said like his biggest mistake was trying to change the world. So trying to have the revolution physically without changing the minds of men. So without re-Africanizing ourselves and breaking the chains of the European or Caucasianization that has happened to us over time. And so when we think about those things, we have to first start within and know that we have to will it. We can't wait on nobody else. It starts with us. And so, yeah, that's a very, very important affirmation quote, however you want to say it, proverb by the Honorable. Okay, so I have my notes here. because as you can see, I will go on a tangent. Um, so yeah, all right. So another thing I want to cover is Negroes again. We're gonna go back to speaking about Negroes. So it Malcolm mentions how, let's see if I can find it. So okay, let's go backwards. So I mentioned that Malcolm's father was very active in the community, was a pastor, was the leader of that UNIA section. And so, he was being seen by other Negroes, black people who saw him probably as, a troublemaker, as, people begin to call black people who were aware and trying to do things in the community for the people. And so these Negroes, or Uncle Toms, as Malcolm says, began to phone stories about his revolutionary beliefs to local white people. We this is why I love autobiographies, because it allows you to see other people's experience, people who reach certain heights and that you look up to. And you build connections within yourself, and you get to see what has changed and what has not. And that is one thing that has not changed. It hasn't changed since our enslavement. I don't think it's changed since we left Africa. Our downfall, when you study history, has always been us for the most part. We've played a large part in our destruction, in our own destruction. We've played a large part in that. And I had a question, which is kind of rhetorical, that I wanted to ask, but um, essentially it revolves around what I just said. Have black people been the main cause of a lot of our movements falling apart? And I would say yes. Um, a lot of it's been on us. It's been that we've gotten very complacent. We've gotten uh, just simply just okay with how things are. It's been passed down through our genetics. Honestly, the way that we uh, want to turn the other cheek and just say, okay, it's all right. But as Nana Chancellor Williams says in the Destruction of Black Civilization, that was happening even at the first appearance of Europeans. Um, there were certain groups of black folk who would say, I don't want to fight. We just gonna stay here, and we just gonna allow the white people to take over. But it was also those Africans who said, nah, we fighting. This is our land. You know what I'm saying? And it's the same thing in the 60s. It's the same thing in the 30s. It's the same thing during our enslavement. There were black people who said, nah, we ain't taking this. And like I said, as Nana Chancellor Williams says, those are the ones who were born to be free. A lot of us weren't born to be free, and it shows through our actions and through our character. Um, and the way things are today, uh, black people look at you like you're crazy when you start talking about Africa. Black people start looking at you like you're crazy if you're still talking about the Black Panthers and we need to be free and we need to be fighting for our sovereignty. They're like, what you mean? Like we good. You know what I'm saying? And most of those people have knowledge about our history. A little bit, I always say to my lady, like, we in 2023 and people still not aware of what's going on. They still not aware of what these white people doing. It can't be. You're choosing to Europeanize. You're choosing to let them run your life, essentially. And that's very problematic moving forward. So I say to others, or whoever watches this back, please reassess that question or assess that question. I'll reframe it. Have black people been the downfall of all of our movements? If so, how can we change that? Again, I feel as though that question is rhetoric, but it makes for a good build. All right, what do we have next? Okay, so I wanted to build on a quote Malcolm had on page 7 here. And this is something that I felt very connected to, because when I think about my upbringing, I found this to be very interesting. He says, "I have never understood why, after hearing as much as I did of these kinds of things," and when he says these kinds of things, he's talking about going to all the meetings with his dad and things like that. I somehow never thought then of the black people in Africa. He says, "My image of Africa at that time was of naked savages, cannibals, monkeys, tigers, and steaming jungles." Okay, so that quote right there, I felt such a connection too, because when I look at, the time it took, or when I say that I became aware of who I am and what I am in our history as a people, man, I was in my 20s, late teens, 19, 20. You dig what I'm saying? But I can recall instances to where, like, I saw Marcus Garvey, or I heard something Marcus Garvey saw, or I watched the whole Malcolm X movie, or I watched a movie that was made about liberation, black liberation, and movies about Africa, or people saying things about Africa. And I'm like, and I thought about, like, yo, why I never, wanted to continue and learn more. Why didn't something tell me Africa? What is it about Africa? You know what I'm saying? Even this book, man. When I was 19, that's the first time I picked up this book. And tell me why I think I didn't get past page 10. But I think that page 10 is enough in the state that I'm in now. When you get to page 10, you've already read about the UNIA. You've already read about Negroes and people being Uncle Toms. And for whatever reason, it didn't stick with me. I did not pick this book up again until a couple weeks ago. I'm 26 now, and I was 19 the first time I picked this book up. But I say all that to say, it did matter. And the ancestors always have things orchestrated. The Creator has your life already orchestrated. And so it wasn't meant for me to read then. It couldn't have been, because if it was, I would have. It was meant for me to read the pages that I did, and to go on and have the different experiences that I did. It was meant for Malcolm to hear all of these things and be in these places as a youth, and then to go through all of the things that he did. It formed him into who he is. He wouldn't have became Malcolm if he would have, thought about Africa and stuff as a youth. I wouldn't have became who I am right now if I would have kept reading Malcolm X Autobiography. Now, who's to say that would have been something good or bad? You never know. But I do believe that nothing happens for no reason. Everything happens for a reason. And so, like, I felt real connected to that. But I do believe that the things with Malcolm, him being in those atmospheres, everything was going into his subconscious. He was absorbing all of that. And that's why when he was awakened, when he was taught, when he was educated, when he was educed, it was brought out of him. And he made those connections, like, yo, my dad, this is what my dad was on, And it's like me. It's like, yo, this is what my spirit was on. That's my experience. This is what my spirit was on this whole time. And I was just being aligned. So to everybody watching this, just know that, everything happens for a reason. If you click on this video, you watching it for a reason. You were meant to be here in this moment, watching this video, learning and absorbing whatever it is you're absorbing. Even if you don't go tap into Malcolm X's book after seeing this live. You're taking in something that's gonna do something good for your spirit. And so, yeah, that's what I felt about that. But I'm trying to keep it smooth. Let's see here. I got another thing that I wanted to cover. Middle class Negroes. Interesting. Let's see here. Middle class Negroes. Okay, so it says here on page 5, I'm going to read the whole thing. It says, it was in his role as a preacher, speaking of his father, that my father had most contact with the Negroes of Lansing, Michigan. I believe he's in now. Yes, Lansing, Michigan. Believe me when I tell you that those Negroes were in bad shape then. They are still in bad shape, though in a different way. Let's listen. By that, I mean that I don't know a town with a higher percentage of complacent, and misguided so-called middle-class Negroes. The typical status symbol-orientated, integration-seeking type of Negroes. Okay, so this is Malcolm is speaking, or looking back on when he was probably about younger than 10, right? And so when we think about middle class Negroes, they are exactly as he described them: complacent and misguided. This is however many so years later in contemporary times that Black folk are still like this. It goes back to what I was saying earlier about Negroes, and looking at those who are serious about revolution and our liberation like we're some fools. Then it was I think it probably was a more difficult choice just because everything was more overt. They saw it as a type of survival tactic, but today, where everything is pretty much hidden to the fact that people really think that we're free and that nothing is going on. It's ridiculous. And so to see that those things are still going on then, to see that those things were going on then as they still are now, and how that affects the people, the majority of people. When we look at the economy and how things are now, this veteran from Canada, but he's actually from I think I want to say either Burundi or Uganda. I was speaking with him, with my lady when we were in Mexico, and he was just saying how, like in America, you can make money doing anything, and he was like, that's a good thing. And I was like, it can be, but being able to do an abundance of things, or giving a people who have no direction, no culture, the ability to do whatever the freak that they want to make money, leads and plays a part in our continued destruction. Because when we look at these things, what are we doing as a people? What is the youth doing? What is the youth seeing as important today, with the ability to make money in any way? Video games, streaming on YouTube, playing sports, and doing rap music. Those things have nothing to do with our liberation struggle. Maybe with an exception of music. But today, the way that music is produced, it is commodified, meaning that there's no heart in the music. I won't say that, because there are artists out there who are serious about their artistry, but there are ones, like I said, who just see it as a way to make money, and they see that there are actually people out here with no talent who can make a song and make thousands of dollars on it. Now, my black brethren and sister and get your money. You dig what I'm saying? But it just needs to be direction. And this is what this is when things like this come into play. We're able to offer the youth guidance. I'm on a super tangent right now, man. But hopefully y'all embrace my tangents. But I think to bring it all back around, I think everything that I just said goes into the misguided part of that. And that's what we're still battling with today. And the guidance is terrible. That can go into a whole bunch of different topics, like the black family not being apart, not being together, mass incarceration. The term misguidance can lead us into a whole bunch of different conversations. You know what I'm saying? But I think that's all. That's all I really want to cover for chapter 1 this time. I will do a little overview of chapter 2 through 5. So chapter 2 through 5, we got mascot, homeboy, Laura, Harlemite. So mascot, Malcolm is just speaking about his experience in middle school and high school, and how once he, got older and started to hang out with his brothers and they started to do more things in the community, not in a positive way, he felt like a mascot. He was hanging out with white kids during this time, and the school that he went to or ended up going to after, he was taken away from his family and all of the kids were separated because his mom was sick. He was like, I think it was like him and another black kid in this school full of white people, and so of course, proximity is what matters at times. He befriended these white folks, but the chapter is called mascots because, and I think the term mascot was used for what we would say today as like being a token, so like when I was younger, I moved from an all black city to mostly white, and the school that I went to was mostly white, and I say that with more than 2 black kids. Those black kids were white. They were very Europeanized. And so in a way, I was the mascot as well, just being around white folks, and they trying to get you to go talk to girls and just do any and everything that they wouldn't do because they don't want to get in trouble, but they'd rather you get in trouble. So that's kind of what Malcolm was facing with the term mascot. And then he speaks about some of the things later, but you got to get the book. You should get the book, read a book so you can learn what Malcolm was going through. Then we got chapter 3, which is homeboy. So homeboy, and I kind of, when I started reading this chapter, I started wishing that I'd never seen the movie before I read the book. And people always say that, read the book first. And I agree with that. Read the book first so that your mind can create the images and not have somebody else put the images in your brain. That's called programming. And so when I started reading Homeboy, it's about once he moved to Boston, and he met one of his new homeboys. And so, it just, that was kind of like him going through adolescence, learning who he was or who he wanted to be. I'll say it like that, who he wanted to be in those years, and how he was just heavily influenced by what was around him. And during that time, it's like 1945, I believe. So, folks is out here selling everything that they can sell, smoking everything that they can smoke, trying to be cool, wearing the big suits. He called them zoot. He calls them zoots. That's what they called the suits that they wore, zoots. Having the hats, the cricket hats. I know we've seen the hat of Malcolm, the hat with the hat Malcolm had on like that. So, that's what chapter 3 is talking about. And then chapter 4 was an interesting one.
It's called Laura. Uh, Laura was this black girl that Malcolm met while he was working at an ice cream parlor. And, I felt very connected to this chapter as well. Things didn't work out between them, essentially. He ended up choosing a white girl. Yes, and like I said, I felt very connected to that, because at that same age, Malcolm being about 15, 16, or 17 during this time, like I did the same thing in a way. Like I ended up choosing to talk to a white girl over a black girl. And it literally was for the same reasons as Malcolm did. He said during that time, there was a lot of intermingling between black and white people, but it was seen as something like what we would call exotic today. We just wanted to see what it was like. You know what I mean? It wasn't like, no, it was lust, essentially. It wasn't like, no, oh, I'm trying to be with this person, or I loved him or whatever. He actually speaks about like how a lot of white women would marry a white man, but they in no way, shape, or form love this. Well, they loved the white man, but they in no way, shape, or form wanted him in that way. Like they wanted to be with black men in that way, to have fun, to have sex with, and stuff like that. And so, in a certain way, I feel like it's still the same way today. Um, Being an athlete, I think a lot of black athletes can probably speak to that. When you go through high school, college, white girls seem to like fiend over black men, and black men do the same with white women. Leaving our sisters out here to find them a white man. You dig what I'm saying? But yeah, so that's what chapter 4 tapped into, man. And again, that's why I love autobiographies, because I get the opportunity to connect my life with someone who I hold in such a high esteem, to show that they're human just like me. You dig what I'm saying? And so I thought that was beautiful. And then chapter 5, it's Harlem Night. And if you're like me, you love New York. New York is it's a nice place. Once you get used to it, though, it just becomes like everywhere else. And as Malcolm says, um, Harlem, I should say, was the same as Lansing, Michigan. It was the same as Omaha. Um, it was no different. It was no different. And the crazy thing is, like when he went there the first few times, when he went to Harlem the first few times, he swore up and down. He swore up and down that it was different. Like he was observing how the black man was acting and everything like that. But like 2 seconds later, he said, "Man, this the exact same." And that's the same thing happened to me. I love New York. My family was from New York. They went up there during the Great Migration, and I wanted to go up there. It's a big city, bright lights. You see it on every movie, every TV show. So why not? I get there. I go a few times. After a while, I'm like, man, New York is like home. You dig? So again, that was just another time. Got to build some connections with Malcolm. But to learn more about Harlemite, I encourage you to tap in. All right. So with that being said, I actually ended up staying on here longer than I anticipated. But asante sana for those who tune in and watch and made it to this point. I hope you were able to bear with my tangents and found something that could help you out, or that encouraged you to do more research and learn more about Nana Malcolm. Again, we are tapping into the autobiography. Oh Lord, you can't see it. There we go. The autobiography of Malcolm X. Yeah, get this book. If not, I'm gonna put also the link to the Negro chapter that I mentioned at the beginning of the stream in the bio. And I'm also going to put our bookstore link in the bio. Again, the name of the bookstore is Asante Sana Books. And we specialize in African centered literature. So we only uh, have literature by Black authors who speak about the African experience, whether that be in America, whether that be in the Caribbean, on the continent, the whole diaspora. That's the literature that we specialize in for all ages. And we're very passionate about our youth. So just tap into the site. And get you some books or donate, share the site to people who you think might be interested. And we appreciate all forms of support. And I'll also be putting the Discord link in the bio. So again, the Discord is where we share different books, different podcasts, lecture series, and just reason about anything, about our experiences here as African people. It was made to build community, just as our bookstore is made to provide education and to build community with our brothers and sisters. So again, Asante Sana. Um, this is Maktaba ya Chinwe, Chinwe's library in Swahili, and I'll catch y'all on the flip. All right, Badaye.